Like super happy because like it was a tough match. So yeah, there were really tough moments where she was playing well and like.
I think it's only normal that with the loss comes disappointment and being upset. But then again, it's another.
The rise, the collapse, and the $45 million myth behind Alex's unforgettable Melbourne implosion. Welcome back to Champions Tennisics, the home of unfiltered, uncompromising, and brutally honest tennis storytelling. If you are not subscribed yet, you are missing the real heartbeat of the tour, the stories that don't make polite headlines. Hit that like button right now, because what you are about to hear has ignited arguments, divided fan bases, and sent shockwaves through the tennis world. We are dissecting the emotional wreckage left behind by one of the most shocking first-round matches in recent Grand Slam history. Australian Open 2026 was supposed to be a celebration. The script was flawless. The stage was prepared for a modern sporting fairy tale. The Queen of the East was meant to rise, crowned in front of a sea of red, blue, and white. Instead, tennis delivered one of its cruelest plot twists, a moment so savage and so sudden that even a Hollywood writer would have been told to tone it down. This is the story of Alex Eala, the pride of the Philippines, ranked 49 in the world, a player who only days earlier had been lifting trophies and dismantling elite opponents with fearless precision. She stepped onto Court 6 at Melbourne Park, and that court instantly stopped being just a tennis venue. It transformed into Little Manila, a fortress of national pride, a living, breathing monument to hope, belief, and expectation. For 34 dazzling minutes, it felt like a coronation. Ella demolished American powerhouse Alicia Parks with a ruthless 6-love opening set, a bagel so emphatic it felt personal. The crowd was deafening. Philippine flags waved like banners of conquest. Social media timelines flooded with celebrations and early proclamations of destiny fulfilled. And then, almost without warning, everything collapsed. In under 2 hours total, a dream introduction turned into a nightmare exit that will replay in highlight reels for years. The final score told a brutal story: 0-6, 6-3, 6-2. Alicia Parks advanced. Alex Eala packed her bags. But that was only the beginning of the chaos. While the echoes of disappointment still lingered inside the locker room and stunned Filipino fans filed out of Court 6 in silence, another narrative exploded online. Rumors flooded forums, TikTok feeds, and Reddit threads at breakneck speed. Headlines screamed that Alex Eala had rejected a massive endorsement deal just days before the tournament. Some claimed the figure was $45 million. Others insisted she walked away to protect her values, to focus on charity, to preserve her pure image. Critics fired back, calling it the most calculated public relations illusion of the decade. A manufactured legend designed to elevate her from athlete to saint. Today, we strip away every layer of this story. We will relive the agony of that first-round battle point by point. We will take you inside the suffocating intensity of Little Manila and explain what it feels like to carry the hopes of millions on the shoulders of a 20-year-old. And we will expose the truth behind the so-called secret contract. Is Alex Eala truly the most incorruptible athlete of her generation, or is her brand being sculpted by strategic storytelling? Buckle up, because this deep dive is not comfortable, not sentimental, and not forgiving. To understand the devastation in Melbourne, you must first understand the impossible height of expectation. Pain only exists where hope once soared. In the days leading up to the Australian Open, Alex Eala was not just another unseeded name in the draw. She was the hottest unseeded player in Melbourne, full stop. She was not hiding on practice courts or collecting polite press mentions. She was winning trophies against legitimate elite competition. The Cannes Classic was not a glorified exhibition, despite what skeptics might claim. Ask Donna Vekic, Olympic silver medalist, seasoned tour veteran, and proven heavyweight. Ella didn't beat Vekic once by accident. She beat her twice in 2 weeks. These were not casual matches. They were high-intensity, high-quality wins that demanded respect. First came Auckland at the ASB Classic, where Ella announced that she was no longer just a promising prospect. Then came Kwong, where she entered a level that can only be described as untouchable. She dismantled Vekic 6-3, 6-4 to claim the prestigious Ivan Gulagang Collie Trophy. That moment mattered. Gulagang is not just a name in Australian tennis. She is royalty. For a 20-year-old Filipina to lift that trophy was a cultural earthquake. The message rippled through locker rooms and press rooms alike. This was not hype anymore. This was reality. Media outlets reacted instantly. Headlines labeled her red hot in Melbourne. Analysts called her victory a defining statement. Her ranking surged into the top 50, and with it came confidence we had never seen from her before. She walked through Melbourne Park with her shoulders back and her belief fully intact. But success has consequences. That Kwang triumph did two things. It convinced the global Filipino fanbase that this was the year, the moment she would go deep at a Grand Slam. And more dangerously, it placed a bright red target on her back. She was no longer the harmless underdog. She was a threat. And waiting for her in round 1 was Alicia Parks, a player armed with one of the most destructive serves on tour but plagued by inconsistency. On paper, momentum favored Eala. Form favored Eala. Confidence favored Eala. Everything pointed toward something special. January 19, 2026. Melbourne Park. Court 6. If you were not there, you cannot truly understand it. Court 6 is intimate. The fans are close enough to be felt, not just heard. And the Filipino community arrived in force. Thousands flooded the entrance, draped in national colors, buzzing with nervous anticipation. When Alex Eala walked onto that court, the roar echoed across the complex. Players on nearby courts stopped mid-practice, unsure which superstar had just emerged. It was a hero's entrance. And Eala fed off it immediately. The opening game alone was a battle. 20 points. 8 break points. A brutal test of will. When Eala finally broke serve, the floodgates did not open, they exploded. She struck with surgical precision. Her left-handed forehand carved angles that defied geometry. Parks was dragged side to side, exposed, overwhelmed. 34 minutes later, the scoreboard read 6-0. A bagel in a Grand Slam main draw against a power server. Group chats back home erupted. Predictions flew wildly. The chants were so loud the umpire was forced to intervene. Parks looked lost, stripped of answers, suffocating under noise and pressure. To casual viewers, the match was over. But tennis does not care about scripts, and it does not forgive assumptions. What followed next was a brutal reminder of why tennis is the most psychologically unforgiving sport in the world. There is no clock to save you, no teammate to hide behind, no timeout to reset the narrative. When the second set began, something had fundamentally shifted, not just on the scoreboard but in the air itself. Alicia Parks did not return to the court as the same player who had been dismantled minutes earlier. She walked back with purpose, eyes locked, shoulders squared, her body language radiating defiance. During the brief break, she had done the most difficult thing any athlete can do in a hostile environment. She had accepted reality instead of fighting it. She understood she could not win the match by trading consistency with Alex Eala. That path led only to humiliation. Instead, she chose chaos. She chose aggression. She chose risk. And most importantly, she chose speed. Parks later admitted that the crowd had rattled her more than she expected. She knew they would be against her, but the sheer intensity, the proximity, the noise that felt like it was vibrating through her bones, nearly crushed her. But instead of shrinking, she recalibrated. She decided that every point would end on her terms. Long rallies were forbidden. If she was going to lose, it would be swinging freely, not suffocating slowly. The second set began and immediately felt different. The serves came faster, flatter, more vicious. The returns came earlier. The hesitation vanished. Suddenly, Eala was the one being rushed. Parks broke serve early and surged ahead 3-0. The noise that had dominated Court 6 evaporated into an uneasy silence. The same fans who had been chanting moments earlier now sat frozen, sensing something slipping out of reach. To Eala's credit, this was the moment where her fighting spirit shone through. She refused to collapse. She dug deep, chased down balls that seemed unreachable, and clawed her way back to 3-all. The crowd exploded again, desperate to believe that this was only a temporary storm. But momentum in tennis is a living thing, and once it chooses a side, it rarely hesitates. Parks had found her rhythm, and with it, something even more dangerous: belief. The American's serve became a weapon of psychological destruction. By the end of the match, she would tally 12 aces, each one landing like a hammer blow. Anyone who has played competitive tennis understands how demoralizing that feels. You survive a brutal rally, fight for every inch, burn energy defending impossible angles, only to watch the next point end in a blink as the ball whistles past you untouched. All that effort erased. Parks broke again, moved ahead 5-3, and calmly served out the set. 6-3. 1 set apiece. What had looked like a procession was now a war. The deciding set exposed the cruel irony of home crowd advantage. What had lifted Alex Eala in the opening set now threatened to crush her. Later, in her press conference, she admitted how overwhelming everything had become. Even before the match, she was being swarmed by fans at practice. She needed 12 security guards just to move safely through the grounds. 12 guards for a 20-year-old tennis player. That is not normal. That is not manageable. That is pressure in its purest, most suffocating form. When things began to go wrong in the third set, there was no escape from expectation. Every missed shot felt amplified. Every error felt like a betrayal. Parks broke early again, jumping to a 2-love lead, and the change in Ella's body language was unmistakable. The relaxed confidence was gone, replaced by frantic energy. She looked repeatedly toward her coaching box, searching for answers, for reassurance, for something to stop the bleeding. She tried to fire herself up, pumping her fist, shouting encouragement toward herself, but Parks was locked in. The American had entered what athletes call the zone, a mental fortress where outside noise simply does not exist. The crowd screamed. The flags waved. It did not matter. Eala managed to hold serve to make it 2-3, igniting one last surge of belief in the stands. Fans screamed until their voices cracked. They stomped until the bleachers shook. This was the final stand. But Parks responded not with hesitation, but with ice-cold precision. Another unreturnable serve. Another short point. Another reminder that power, when controlled, can silence even the loudest arenas. At 5-2, Parks stepped up to serve for the match. This is where legends are supposed to falter. This is where pressure is meant to suffocate. Instead, Eala showed heart. She saved 2 match points with pure refusal to surrender. The crowd rose as one, begging for a miracle. But on the third match point, Parks unleashed a blistering forehand. Eala stretched, blocked the ball back defensively, and watched it sail long. Game, set, match. 0-6, 6-3, 6-2. The silence was immediate and devastating. Flags slowly lowered. Fans stood frozen, unable to process what they had just witnessed. How does someone win a first set 6-love and still lose the match? Parks, cast as the villain in this emotional drama, was gracious but honest. She admitted that hostile crowds fuel her. That proving people wrong lights a fire. She had taken the crowd's energy and redirected it like a martial artist, using force against itself. The fairy tale was over. But the chaos did not end at the net. While analysts debated tactics and fans mourned the loss, another story exploded online, one that threatened to redefine the entire narrative. Claims surfaced that Alex Eala had rejected a massive endorsement deal just days before the tournament. $45 million. A lifetime contract. International brands. Saudi money. The story mutated with every retelling. To some, she became a symbol of purity, an athlete who chose principles over profit. To others, it smelled like myth-making on an industrial scale. A legend carefully crafted for maximum emotional impact. The question demanded answers. Did Alex Eala really walk away from generational wealth? Or was this another example of social media fantasy colliding with reality? To uncover the truth, we have to step away from emotion and step into evidence. There is no documented confirmation of a $45 million offer from Wilson or any other major brand. No filings. No press releases. No verified statements. Wilson has not confirmed it. Ella's management has not confirmed it. Her family has not confirmed it. What we do know is this: Eala is under existing contracts. She uses Babolat rackets. She wears Nike apparel. She has long-term partnerships with Globe Telecom and the Bank of the Philippine Islands, brands that backed her long before international fame arrived. So where did the rumor come from? The answer is uncomfortable but familiar. People want heroes who reject money. They want stories that feel moral, cinematic, and larger than life. The idea of a young athlete turning down millions to stay pure is irresistible. It spreads faster than truth because it feels better than truth. But facts do not bend for feelings. And when stripped of speculation, the story collapses under scrutiny. When the noise finally faded and the floodlights dimmed over Court 6, what remained was not just a lost match, but a defining moment that will follow Alex Eala for the rest of her career. Tennis history is ruthless in that way. It does not remember explanations, excuses, or emotional context. It remembers scorelines, turning points, and moments where the narrative snapped in half. For Eala, Melbourne 2026 became that moment. Not because she lost, but because of how violently expectations collided with reality. One set of perfection. Two sets of unraveling. That contrast carved itself into public memory with surgical precision. The immediate aftermath was raw. In her press conference, Eala did not hide behind clichés. She spoke softly, visibly drained, admitting that the atmosphere had become overwhelming. She acknowledged that the love, the support, the chants, and the flags had given her energy early, but later transformed into a weight she could not escape. Every miss felt louder. Every error felt personal. This is the dark side of hero worship that rarely gets discussed. When an entire nation believes you are unstoppable, the margin for being human disappears. At 20 years old, Eala found herself learning that lesson in the harshest possible classroom. Analysts quickly dissected the match from a tactical perspective. They pointed to Park's adjustment, the shortened points, the serve dominance, and Ella's inability to disrupt rhythm once momentum shifted. All valid observations. But tactics alone do not explain the emotional collapse that unfolded. This was not just a tennis match. It was a pressure test, and the pressure did not come from Alicia Parks alone. It came from expectation, narrative, and timing. Eala arrived in Melbourne not as a hopeful contender, but as a symbol. Symbols do not get room to breathe. And this is where the off-court myth becomes inseparable from the on-court result. The $45 million rumor did not exist in a vacuum. It amplified everything. It elevated her image beyond athlete into moral icon. Whether she wanted it or not, she became the face of an idea. Purity over profit, values over wealth. That kind of narrative is intoxicating for fans, but brutal for the person living inside it. Because once you are placed on that pedestal, falling becomes catastrophic. Let's be clear. The evidence does not support the existence of a rejected $45 million contract. There is no verified paper trail. No credible confirmation. No official acknowledgement from brands or representatives. What exists instead is a classic modern sports phenomenon. Speculative storytelling fueled by algorithms, engagement farming, and emotional amplification. Someone floated a number. Someone added moral framing. Someone else added outrage or admiration. And suddenly, a myth was born. Once born, myths do not require proof. They survive on repetition. What makes this dangerous is not the rumor itself, but its effect. Fans debated whether Eala was distracted. Critics suggested she cracked under pressure she helped create. Supporters argued she was being punished for staying humble. None of these debates were grounded in fact, yet all of them shaped public perception. That is the reality of elite sports in the digital age. Narratives move faster than truth, and athletes are often the last ones to catch up. So where does this leave Alex Eala? Strangely enough, in a stronger position than the scoreboard suggests. Because every great career has a scar. Every champion has a moment where belief is tested, stripped down, and rebuilt. This loss exposed weaknesses, yes, but it also revealed resilience. She did not retire injured. She did not implode emotionally. She fought. She saved match points. She faced the cameras. She owned the moment. Those are not small things. They are the foundation of longevity. The broader question now is how her team responds. Does she retreat from the spotlight, recalibrate expectations, and reframe her public image back toward athlete instead of symbol? Or does the machine continue to push a narrative that may be emotionally unsustainable? Because the truth is simple and uncomfortable, no 20-year-old can carry a nation, a myth, and a flawless image without cracking. It is not weakness. It is biology. For fans, this is also a moment of responsibility. Support is powerful. Love is powerful. But expectation, when unchecked, can suffocate. The same crowd that lifted her to a 6-love first set unknowingly helped create the weight that followed. This is not blame. It is reality. Tennis is played inside the mind as much as on the court, and noise does not always translate to strength. As for Alicia Parks, her performance deserves respect beyond the villain role she was cast into. She adjusted. She absorbed hostility. She executed under pressure. She did what professionals are supposed to do. She proved that mental resilience can flip any match, regardless of how bleak it looks early. Her victory was not theft. It was earned, point by point, serve by serve. So was Melbourne a collapse, or was it a lesson? The answer depends on what happens next. If this match becomes a reference point, a reminder of what unchecked pressure feels like, it could mark the beginning of a more grounded, more dangerous version of Alex Eala. One that plays without needing to be perfect. One that allows herself to be human. Tennis history is filled with players who lost big before they won bigger. The $45 million lie will fade. Myths always do. What will remain is the footage, the data, the memory, and the opportunity to grow. Alex Eala did not lose her future on court 6. She confronted it. And sometimes, the most important victories come disguised as painful defeats. That is the real story behind Melbourne 2026. Not a bagel. Not a rumor. Not a number pulled from thin air. But a young athlete colliding with expectation and walking away with experience instead of trophies. And in the long run, that may be worth far more than any imaginary contract ever could. This is Champions Tenisics signing off. Keep questioning the narratives. Keep respecting the game. And remember, legends are not built in perfect moments, but in how players respond when everything falls apart.